Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is week 3 of the $1 Million Mission. It's going to be very, very fun. We'll be here for about an hour. If you guys are watching it on YouTube or the Twitch replay, I appreciate that. Definitely go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us before we get started. We go ahead and get this tweeted out so we can wait for some people to join. But for those who don't know, I'm Moose at CFB_Moose on Twitter. I'm going to be the host tonight. I'm from Occupy Fantasy at Occupy Fantasy on Twitter, OccupyFantasy.com on the web. Alongside co-founder Brian at Brian Jester FF on Twitter. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Moose? How are you?
I am doing great. I am doing great. It was a weird week, especially for I guess for anything all around DFS wise for football. Um, but how about for you?
Yeah, interesting week. We almost had a sweat there at the end of those 4 o'clock games. Kyler Murray wouldn't cooperate, but that's the great thing, especially with all these showdown slates now. It's like we have a sweat potentially Thursday night, and then we have all day Sunday sweat, and then Sunday night sweat, and then Monday night sweat. So
Or if you're like me, who is really bad at single game, you just don't sweat at all on those showdown slates, and you're just like, I'm throwing my money away to this. No, I mean it's crazy. But yeah, so why don't you tell us? For those who've been here, they probably know what's going on. But for the people who haven't, who've first time listeners, first time chat joiners, why don't you tell us what's going on tonight?
yep. So every Tuesday night, I'm trying to recapture the magic of the Super Bowl $1 million victory and recapping each week's 150 lineups that I'm doing on FanDuel and DraftKings. Normally, we'll pick one site and review those lineups and talk about strategy. Full transparency, talk about my return on investment, and just talk about 150 max lineup building in general, and 20 max as well, because now that we've partnered with DFS Magic, all OccupyFantasy.com members get access to this free lineup builder for the duration of the first half of the NFL season. And most honestly, the really nice thing about the lineup builder is, one, there have been improvements every week with the user interface thanks to everyone's feedback. And I know every week the process itself has gotten quicker and quicker to be able to build these lineups. And
Yeah,
two, just the ability to import directly from the Occupy model.
yeah, that right there is key. That is it does our projected ownership as well. Um, there's just so many features that at first you're like overwhelmed. It's like what I don't know what that is, like the law of choices or something, where like if you get too many choices, you freak out, you don't know what to do. But once you kind of sit back, take a look at DFS Magic, and see the power that it is, you can go ahead and knock some things out with it. And we've been getting some success from members saying, "Hey, I use DFS Magic, I used Occupy Fantasy lineup building tools, contest selection, bankroll allocation, and I've done well." So shout out to them.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think Jack, the creator, has been really open to the feedback, and honestly, just from week 1 to week 3, the um, the improvements have been outstanding. And now, the time it takes for me to make 150 lineups using the settings I want is now down to the minutes instead of hours.
Yeah, and so just for full transparency, on the record, are you using DFS Magic for your $150 million mission?
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Yeah,
no, I legit.
I just wanted to get that on the record. Just wanted to make sure people
Yeah,
were.
I used it when it was in its infancy before anyone else saw it for the Super Bowl GPP, and then throughout preseason and stuff. And since it's been public, I've been using it every single week.
Nice. I see we got Jake in here. It said, "What's up, guys? Man, hope you didn't play as much Carson as I did." Yeah, I played Carson, and a couple lineups got burned. If you look up at the top scroller, you'll see Brian's Week 3 $1 Million Mission top 10 leveraged plays. What that means is these are the top plays that his exposure of 150 lineups was greater than the field. So you take a look at number one is Will Fuller. He had 27% over the field. Greg Olson's example plus 26 over the field. And we talk about that. Some other kind of questions. I have some questions for you. We'll try and figure out how to work them in. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting. I've noticed almost kind of like the same group appear on this top lineups. You have like a low owned defense that you kind of crush. Usually some Baltimore and some Arizona players sneak in there somehow, and they just let you down again.
Yeah, again, gonna go bankrupt playing all these Arizona players every week, and it's so tilting because like after week one, they're like, well, let's see, because I kind of do my game selections early in the week, kind of look at some early occupy model stuff.
Yeah.
So all right, what games are we looking at this week? And then last week's like, oh god damn it, it's Arizona again. Really fits this criteria. And then today I'm looking at it, it's like, you gotta be kidding me, Arizona once again. So so there's gonna be the $1 million mission to bankruptcy by the time week 16 rolls around. But like Jake said, I did have a good amount of Chris Carson. But those are the type of process plays that we like to play. Rashad Penny, who had been taking some snaps away from him, was ruled out. Carson just fumbled away his chances early, so that was definitely frustrating.
Yeah. So let me go ahead. So let's go ahead and get up here. The image of, let's see if I can pull this up, of your ROI. Let's see if we can get this set up here. So let's see.
Yeah, super fun to see this once again.
That's your week 2. Let me go ahead and pull up week 3.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, so for week 3, there it is up on the screen. Again, negative ROI, negative 22%, 37 satellite tickets. You're slowly getting there. I think the first week was in the 60s. The second week was in the 30s. You're getting there, man.
Yeah, by about week 16, I'll be plus 4%. And we'll be rolling in dough. No, the big thing about this week, I was fortunate to have 37 satellite tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of cut down on the entry fee some. I'm going to continue that strategy of trying to not fully play with all cash. Obviously, it's a strategy we preach here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just a couple hits away from this. I was still thrilled with my game selection, my game stacking selections. Just missed out a little bit here and there. But definitely some other situations that I think I can improve on for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do just want to say, if you guys have any questions, comments, you want to shit on Brian, you want to have some insightful conversations, anything of that nature, go ahead and ask us in the chat. Like I said, we'll be here until about 9 o'clock. You can ask us any questions. We'll be here to answer. Normally, to ask us questions, it's free. You have to be a VIP, donator, member, stuff like that. But for this Tuesday stream, we do open it up to the public, more or less.
So any questions you have whatsoever about last week, this upcoming week, about using DFS Magic, about 150 max strategy, whatever it may be, certainly.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was say I know some people don't do 150 max, but some people do 20 max. So if you have questions about 20 max, anything like that, you can ask too.
Yep, exactly. So this was week 3 ROI. Do you have my year-to-date ROI by chance?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get that up here.
So just while you're bringing this up, this is 3 losing weeks in a row for me. 0 for 3 as far as profitability goes. As far as 150 max in the main slate goes. Just so you know, I'm very risk adverse. I don't mind taking risks. I understand the ups and downs. I realize that I may have just 2 profitable weeks, but those 2 profitable weeks, most are going to be really, really big spike weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a mentality thing. Like when you 150 max, when you play high risk contests, you have to have this mentality. People don't. It's really tough, and it's something you have to learn and grow from. And you can't get down enough when you see 3 losing weeks in a row.
Exactly. And even then, I mean, if you think about it, if you're looking at the big picture, you had, and again, not to deviate from the subject, but you did have you're literally 1 catch away from $250,000.
Yeah.
There were some other shots that you had going here, and the processes that you do, I guess they would say that we do here at Occupy Fantasy. I felt good about them. You talked to me about what you did, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. It sounds good. So sometimes you just gotta keep churning, man.
Yeah, we'll keep it going. Just keep improving every single week. Little things here and there is another thing I noticed this week. So maybe that's the first thing we can talk about for my 150 lineups this week. Mike Evans was my favorite receiver play on the board. We talked about him. I think we talked about him Saturday night during our week 3 preview stream about how he had just been loaded with opportunity through 2 weeks, and that a big game was probably coming for him. And he was the guy I wanted the most of. However, if you look at my actual lineups, I had him in about 3% of lineups. 5 out of 150 at Mike Evans. So, Moose, how does it make any sense?
I'm not sure. So, real quick, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the image off the screen so we don't lose every single viewer. Um,
Okay.
but so what I have on the background here is Fantasy Labs contest dashboard. It's a fantastic resource that's free. Lets you analyze all the contests. You pick the contest and it gives you all the entrants. You can look at all their allocations and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and let's pull it up. I have yours up here, and yeah, Mike Evans at 3.3%. You said he was your favorite wide receiver, but you had negative leverage on him for the field. I kind of want to know, what was your process about that? Was that not obviously it wasn't a part of your game stack, but yeah, tell me what you thought.
Yeah. So another area where I can learn from, and that I'm going to improve upon
Hmm.
moving forward. Um, if you sort by highest ownership, you'll see that all the receivers I had were part of game stacks. My highest owned receivers: DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore. I feel like I'm missing one more maybe. Oh, the Chiefs and Ravens guys.
Yeah.
So what I think I need to do is, because I'm still going to continue game stacking. That is what I've learned and what our back testing shows is the most profitable way to win GPPs.
Hmm.
Um, I just need to, I think, use a little more, because I've been using a lot of quarterback, receiver stacks.
Hmm.
Maybe use more quarterback and running back receiver stacks, just to get some leverage or some exposure up on these receivers that I do really like. Guys like Mike Evans, who I liked a lot,
Hmm.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. There's a lot of these guys that I really like. It's just that the game stacks took over as far as exposure goes, and that's something I need to try to figure out how to balance.
Yeah, I mean, especially on DraftKings where you can find some nice PPR bonus, like high ceiling people that have a better chance of getting those bonuses. One person that comes to mind, Chris McCaffrey, someone like that. That could be a part of your game stack where you do that quarterback, running back, receiver. That leaves you with a chance to get some more wide receivers out, different exposed wide receivers.
That's true, and I honestly in the DFS Magic lineup builder settings, I've been doing a 60-40 split for receivers.
Okay.
But if I'm really going this heavy, especially if the stacks I'm using are like wide receiver focused, like Houston, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, like those are the only guys I was stacking with Houston, then I probably should up my flex to like 70% receivers, 80% receivers, if there are some receivers not in these game stacks that I love, like Mike Evans.
Yep. Exactly. Um, Yeah, I totally agree with that. So BKSA, so what's up, fellas? What's up, bro? Always glad to have you here in the chat.
Like,
Jake has a question. Says, what happened to being underexposed on Dallas defense?
yeah, good question, Jake. And what ended up happening was I stacked Carolina and Arizona pretty heavily,
Hmm.
and everyone in that game was mad cheap. So it gave me the ability to pay for other positions, and our model loved both New England and Dallas. And the builder ended up putting a lot of those defense into those lineups.
Hmm.
Now, if I was just making one lineup, I would have faded them. But like I said, so many of those guys were so cheap that it allowed me to pay up for those positions.
Makes sense. And all the chocolate milk, who is a Twitch Prime subscriber, says it seems like the three-man stack quarterback, wide receiver, opposing wide receiver are hitting more than 4 or 5 man stacks now. What's your opinion on that, Brian?
Yeah. And one small sample size. It's still only been 3 weeks. So
Hmm.
we found through our back testing over the course of weeks and weeks and years that basically people don't do 4-man stacks enough. People don't do 5-man stacks enough. And the reason that 3-man stacks are going to win more often than not is because more people are doing 3-man stacks. If like 90% of people are doing, not this is a made up number, but if 90% of people are doing 3-man stacks, then a vast majority of GPP winners are going to do 3-man stacks.
Hmm.
So like I said, I'm going to continue with the process. I'm not worried about it. There's going to be a week here where fucking chalk doesn't hit all the time, and my stats will be great.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a 35% wide receiver or so score 2 touchdowns.
Man, just kill me. Like, so we can talk about that. So Nelson Aguilar, 38% or something in the millionaire.
Let me pull that up here.
Pretty sure it's like 38%.
Yeah, 33%.
It's just insane. 33% for All right, so who's I talking to? Maybe a staff member, maybe one of us, and I was saying that, how could this possibly go wrong? 33% of people on Nelson freaking Aguilar. Of course, he goes out and scores 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
But
he is straight destroying your bankroll these last couple weeks.
I know, but like, here's why I am 100% okay with playing 0% Nelson Aguilar. So I made 150 lineups on both sites. I had 0 Aguilar on both sites. Two things. One, 33% owned. If Aguilar busts, which is a pretty high rate for receiver, then I'm looking pretty good.
Or
Two,
not even,
if he hit,
I was gonna say not even if he busts, but even if he just does average what he's like projected to do, nothing serious.
right? If he just does, if he hits 3x value, which most people want it for cash games, I'm fine. If he does hit like he did, 25 points, I think he had something around there. My guys can still do that. But the key is you're playing for the downside here, because if he bombs out, then 33% of lineups are going with it. So I'm totally okay with it. Anytime a receiver is that highly owned, and the chances of him hitting 5-6x value is not that high, I'm going to play that every time. Like, do you think Nelson Aguilar scores 2 touchdowns 33% of the time? No.
0. No, I would say probably 1% of the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we got dicked on that. I got dicked on that. So I'm okay with it. Another process play.
Yeah, it was crazy when again just talking about him real quick. When I played the single entry double up, the $5 massive gigantic whatever the fuck they call it, he was 88% owned in this, and I didn't have it. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm cashing now. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. That's another maximize ownership and cash type situation.
Yep. So all the chocolate milk makes a comment and has a question. Do you think projections are just less accurate early season, and the picture gets clearer with more game samples? And how do we use that to our advantage? So yeah, projections are definitely less accurate the first 4 weeks of the season. Once week 5 hits, that's when the Occupy model really starts to shine. What's your opinion on that question, Brian?
Yeah, it's not just the model too. It's other projection sets and other models out there too have the same issue, and that's why fading high owned guys, especially early in the season, makes a ton of sense. Because if everyone believes that this guy's going to do well, but the data doesn't, there isn't a large enough data sample size to back it up, then we really stand to gain a lot when we fade those types of players.
Yeah.
It gets a little less so later in the season, but that applies as far as fading high owned receivers, like positional variance, all that stuff still comes into play. But yeah, really these first 4 weeks of the season is where you want to take your own stands because everyone else is drawn from the same small data. It says.
Sounds right to me. So, all right. So another quick question that I have for you. Let me go ahead and pull that up here. Is that there was some Sunday morning news comes to mind. Rex Burkhead, Darrell Williams. Did you do any sort of hectic running around, late swapping or early swapping, I guess is what you would call it, before the game started?
It makes me sick. Like, so about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, we get news that James White is out. Our model updated within a few minutes, and it gave Rex Burkhead a 7-point bump in OF index, and which is pretty huge on a Sunday morning. Bumped him up as to one of the top cheap running backs. And I was like, okay, I need to get him into my lineup for sure. And I was looking at my lineups, and so on DraftKings specifically, I had like 22% or 20% Philip Lindsay. The model was all over him, and I didn't love it just personally. I was like, I don't understand why Philip Lindsay's so high. He's splitting carries, tough Packers defense, doesn't make sense to me. So I was like, you know what? They're pretty much the same price. I'm just going to directly swap out all of my Lindsay shares for Rex Burkhead. I feel great about this. Burkhead did okay, 18 points. I can't argue with that. But Philip Lindsay was like the 3rd highest scoring running back somehow.
Yeah.
Hashtag trust the model. So that was like incredibly frustrating. 2, LaShawn McCoy. Going into the game, we knew Damian Williams was out. McCoy, full practice on Friday, headed for a full workload. Sunday morning, he's limping into the arena or the stadium. Then he works out, so he looks good on the active list. Should get a good workload. Maybe 15 minutes before the game start, beat reporter says that they're doing drills, team drills, and Darrell Williams was the first running back in line. LaShawn McCoy was the 3rd team running back. Combined with that with the fact that he was heavily limping going into the game, I was like, okay, it sounds like McCoy may just be the emergency running back here.
Yeah.
He's a 3rd team running back. He was limping. lots of things pointed to Darrell Williams, who had gotten first team reps, who had been with the team longer, who they trust in the passing game, was the number 2 receiver at LSU after DJ Chark his last year and in college. So, okay, this makes a lot of sense for at least Darrell Williams to take Damian Williams' role. And at worst, split some carries with McCoy. So the biggest issue was there was 10 minutes left, and McCoy was 5,500 or 5,000, and Darrell Williams was 3K minimum price. And I had 22% of McCoy. And it's like, okay, I don't know exactly how I'm going to get this done in 10 minutes. Let me at least directly swap Williams for McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
And try to upgrade where I can. It was an issue, let's just say the least. So I just said, you know what, fuck it. 8 minutes left, 7 minutes left, 4 minutes left. I'm just going to direct swap Williams for McCoy and leave this money left over. Because I did think Darrell Williams had 25-point upside if Deshaun McCoy sat or didn't play much. Which is what you needed. Because if I'm leaving 2,000 on the table, I can't be satisfied with 5 times return on value.
Yeah.
Like if Darrell Williams has 15 points, that's 5x 3K. That's not enough if I have $2,000 in salary left over. He's got to account for that as well. I need him to score 20, 25 points, which I thought he could do. Then, of course, McCoy fucking starts the game, first carry. And I was like, okay, that's great. But then Darrell Williams mixes in. Darrell Williams doing great, and McCoy scores 2 touchdowns on 11 touches. It's this like an incredibly frustrating weekend from all the swaps that happened, all the injuries and whatnot. But again, I wouldn't change what I did.
Yeah, as Tick Tick Boom comes in the chat and says he talked himself out of Lindsey. That sucks. And then he also made a comment that beat reporters are the worst and they scare me out of so much money. Yeah, beat reporters seems like they get more times wrong than not.
There are definitely some good ones out there, and I still think it was the right play. Like Darrell Williams played 20 more snaps than McCoy. He got like 5 or 6 more touches. Instead, McCoy, of course, scored 2 touchdowns on his 11 touches. So.
Yeah, that's
crazy. And there's another, like Chocolate Milk says, you know, and reporters said that, you know, he's really struggling through pregame warmups. But he went out and played similar amount of snaps, got 7 targets, didn't convert on his 7 targets, got pretty similar usage as he has first 2 weeks of the season. So, you know, it's really kind of tough to tell when these pregame reports happen.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So I guess the other question that I have for you is, I mean, I probably know the answer, but are you satisfied with your process that you've had the first 3 weeks?
Never 100% satisfied. You know, there's always going to be improvement every time. If I don't improve, I'm going to get left behind, right? This is how that works. So I'm always looking for things to improve. The Mike Evans thing is the biggest glaring mistake I made in week 1. That'll be corrected moving forward. And then 2, these kind of Sunday mornings, just being prepared. The first 2 weeks were pretty nice. No major injuries, no switches, no swaps. But then when a decision like that has to be made, uncertainty, I need to have a better plan in place for fixing 150 lineups. Because inevitably that's going to happen. Just remember last year, Leonard Fournette, like not even on the injury report, just randomly ruled out at like 11:30. And then the whole slate changed. So, you know, personally, I have to be better prepared to be able to do these types of things.
Yep. No, I agree with that. I was just looking here, and I sorted the contest, like the results by player. Turns out Mike Evans actually was the highest scoring person on the slate.
Right, yeah, thanks, Liz. Yeah, rubbing salt in the wound.
Oh, you're welcome. You need some PJ Salt in the chats and the emoji. That's great. And BKSA says, I hear your frustration. I referred Craig83 to Occupy, and he wins our league and wins $200 on a $1 WTF.
That's awesome. Well, congrats to Craig. He won the members league too.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, just if you are listening to this, by the way, if you're an Occupy Fantasy member, if you didn't know this already, Chris, our NFL writer, sets up a contest every week. It's free on DraftKings. I think it's been 50 spots the last 2 weeks. Maybe we'll increase it. We'll see. But as it increases, the bigger the prize. So it's free to enter, but the winner this past week won a $33 DraftKings ticket. So free chance at a ticket, certainly. The link is always in the main Slate Daily Club.
And it's crazy because you can tell that our people are sharp because, you know, you can use it on a ticket. And everyone has came back and said, oh, actually, can I use it on like can I just do like 4 or 5 tickets in the same contest to kind of be in line with some of these pros? Like, oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, do your thing.
So wow, yeah, you guys, literally every person that's done it so far has done that. I was like, wow, you guys are sharp.
Jake has a good question. So, are you making your last minute changes on DraftKings in a CSV or in the optimizer?
Great question. So with the direct swaps, like Burkhead for Lindsey and Darrell Williams for McCoy, I just did the global swap on DraftKings and FanDuel. However, what I need to do, and I'm an idiot for not doing this. I feel like I say I'm an idiot every time on this show. So maybe by the time I hit the million, I won't be an idiot. But I'm being hard on myself here. But what I did when I created the lineups in DFS Magic, I did not save the CSVs with all the player exposures, who to include. So like if I had that, I could very easily upload it back into DFS Magic and change the settings real quick and spit out 150. I didn't do that. So there's definitely no time to make 150 new lineups in 8 minutes. So again, that's my bad. DFS Magic has the ability to kind of help with that. I didn't take advantage. So.
Yep. And Chocolate Milk makes comments says even if you had more Evans, it means you would have more Godwin as well in those stacks, and that didn't go well. Did you stack Evans in a lot of things, or?
No, I didn't have really anybody from that game. Evans and Evan Ingram. That's really bad. I had some Saquon too.
Okay.
But the key here with like 4 or 5 man stacks is like you're gonna crush when 2 things happen. 1, the game absolutely goes bonkers and everybody hits 5x value. Or 2, it's a low scoring week, and that's really your best chance at taking out GPP. And your 3-man stack or your 2-man stack in the game, one of those, you're basically playing for a 50-50 shot that one of those guys go for like 40 points.
Yeah.
Because that can win you a low scoring week. So like if it's a high scoring week, you're gonna need all 5 guys to just absolutely just go nuts. But if it's a low scoring week, this 4-man stack, 5-man stack just gives you a chance at like a 40 point, a couple 30 points thrown in, a 20 pointer. So yeah, even in that game, if Godwin didn't go off, if it was a lower scoring week, we would have had a shot still.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the look-ahead lines for NFL this week. It could be one of those low-scoring weeks. I mean, you have 2 games that the total's in the high 30s. There's only one game whose total is over 50. That's the Kansas City-Detroit game. So, hey, never know.
Well, yeah, honestly, that's what we want. Like, we want a week where the millionaire winner is like 215. Very rarely, because honestly, if the millionaire winner is like 280, that means like some chalk definitely hit. Some low chalk normally hits. Aguilar is the case that 33%. When he scores 25 points, all the scores are going to be pushed up. So the week where the chalk doesn't hit, the score is going to be lower, and we'll have a much better chance. So,
I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, as BKSA says, seems like more one-offs and stacks this year. That's just low sample size. We've had some really, really high-scoring weeks these first 3 weeks, but it'll deviate back down to his norm.
Yeah, and Tick Boom says Mahomes in a dome. My God, he might get 70. You know, this is Mahomes' first NFL game in a dome.
Really?
Yeah, somehow he's never played in a dome before, so legit might put up 70 points.
Yeah, so all right, so we got about 30 minutes left, guys. If you like what we're doing, definitely go ahead and hit that follow button on Twitch, the top right, the purple heart. You'll get notified of when we go live. We'll be back again here Saturday, breaking down the main slate. Might sprinkle in something else in between there, depends on what you guys want. Is there anything you want to look at in the Fantasy Labs contest dashboard?
Yeah, let's take a look at the guy who won. No, I'll pull it up actually. Let me see his username. We can take a look at just what he did.
It's Hishbu.
Oh, Hishbu. Yeah. You want to pull them up?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say the guy who finished second, I feel bad for him because he missed it by like 3.5 points, and he had Le'Veon in his running back slot. So if Le'Veon does absolutely anything, he crushes his slate.
He must look to the model.
Yeah, and his name was Broranosaurus Flex, which is a great name.
What a great name.
Yeah. Let's see.
Do you have the winning lineup up, by the way?
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Okay. So here's the winning lineup.
His team went absolutely off.
Yeah.
Of course, he had Burkhead and Lindsey, but like the fact that he had Keenan, Mike Evans, and Julio, and they all went for 30 plus.
Yeah. 1, 2, four players that went 40 plus. Wow. And I mean, yeah. So looking at Tyrannosaurus Rex's thing, we had Daniel Jones at
Yeah.
quarterback. Um, Again, that Le'Veon Bell, he's probably shooting himself in the foot.
See, he had a 4-man stack and he missed it by a point. He's like fucking Le'Veon.
Yep. So
That's crazy. The dude won the million by 3 points.
yeah, that's very very strange. But
In
yeah.
fact, the guy on FanDuel had a Daniel Jones stack as well. So
Wow. All right, so let's look at what is it? Hishbu.
and just while you're pulling that up, Jimmy Vaughn, what's up, has a question in the chat saying, do you buy into the idea that the chalk that busted last week probably makes for a good play this week just due to recency bias? We don't necessarily look at it like that in a vacuum. And DFS players are getting way sharper. Like week 2 when Sammy Watkins busted, I was like, oh, he might be lower owned than Demarcus Robinson this week. And he comes in like double the ownership of Demarcus Robinson. So, people are getting hipper. There's tons of information out there. We just got to pick our spots a little bit better than having, blanket statements like playing the chalk with busted last week.
Yep. Good question. I really appreciate that. And if you guys have any more questions, definitely go ahead and let us know. So let's see. So I have it up here.
This guy have 150 lineups?
Yes, he did.
Oh, good for him.
So looking at the people who won 50 max, just in the top 10, I'm just going to run it down real quick. You had Hishbu, who had 150, Tyrannosaurus, who had 150, Petty Theft, who had 150.
Damn.
Fourth place had 5, then 2, 20. 7th and 8th had 150, 9th had 10, and the 10th place person had 1 entry.
Damn. It was a good week for the hashtag 150 club.
Yeah. I will say it's so crazy that I download the contest selection, I analyze it and go through it. There's so many people who have multiple entries that just don't put in a lineup.
It's mind blowing. Yeah, absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean,
or you could be like the one guy. I saw it earlier on the stream. He had 150 lineups, all the same.
Eesh. There's I'm just looking here. I'm not going to say any names, but he has 8 entry. He put 8 entries in and didn't submit a lineup for 8 of them.
All right, that's clearly not optimal.
No, it's not.
You see what JL Win says in the chat?
Let me look here. The guy who won $20 entry max would have won the millie by 16 points. Oh my god.
It's utter domination. God.
Yeah, that's insane.
Damn.
So, all right, yeah. So we're looking here. He actually had a positive leverage on Nelson Aguilar. He was actually his top owned player.
God, what a genius, this guy. Unbelievable. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, I guess, here's the thing. You either play 0 Nelson Aguilar or you go way over what the field is. Like, if you really feel like he's going to hit 25 points, you better damn sure make sure you benefit from it. Like, it makes no sense to have him in, 30% or 15%. Just go 0 or, a ton. This guy went the ton route and clearly benefited, so.
And, yeah, I mean, if you sort by his leverage plays, you have out of the top – forever. I mean, just look. Out of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the top 7 were double-digit owned players, and he overexposed. I don't want to say overexposed, but that's probably the wrong word. He leveraged them. It's 25 plus for each player.
Wow, that's definitely some. He's definitely taking stands there, and what's kind of funny to me is a lot of these guys weren't even in his winning lineups. The Chargers were not, Carson was not, Eckler was not, Andrews was not, Le'Veon was not, Sanders was not. A lot of these guys were not in his lineup. He just happened, his lower exposed guys haven't hit the right combo. So
yeah,
congrats for him.
Yep. That's good for him. Any other pros you want to take a look at while we're here? Can we let's take a look at the second place guy.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking the same thing. So I see our staff chat is blowing up about baseball tonight. Just for everyone listening in the chat, DraftKings is offering that single game World Series game 1, big GPP, massive GPP. I imagine there'll be a ton of money the first. The model's updated all through the regular season. It'll be updated for single game through postseason as well. And then we're going to do some kind of big content for that week, that game 1 World Series, whether it's a Twitch stream, some type of written content, something. to help people who have tickets to that.
Yeah, and if you are thinking about even playing that contest, start now. Rack some tickets up. Uh, just try and get as many entries to it as you can.
Right, definitely.
If I had to guess, it actually might be $1 million to first, huh? If we're being honest.
It might be. I mean, they're getting ballsy with this these payouts, these single games. So it truly might be $1 million at first.
It'll be $1 million to first, $250 a second.
Yeah, I've kind of come around, especially on FanDuel, where the top prize is so top heavy. I mean, the odds are it's going to be a split prize, so I don't hate it as much. But I guess if you finish like fifth in the top four, get it, then you're still kind of screwed. So maybe I'll take that opinion back.
Yeah, so if you look here at Rosansour's Flex's lineup, some of his highest owned guys, Zeke, he had a negative leverage. Eckler, he had a negative leverage. Um,
He had 99 different guys in his lineups. It looks like.
let me look.
Is that what it says over there?
He had 102 players in his entry pool.
And a max of 26. So so he just spread everything out.
Yeah.
What was his lowest? Did he have just a couple guys at 0.3% or something, 0.7%?
Yeah, he had a couple guys: Mixon, Mack, the Green Bay defense, Mahomes, Connor.
Interesting. Okay.
Very, very interesting. And looking at some of his top leverage plays, he only had one player over 10% leverage, and that was Le'Veon.
So apparently, the two guys who finished 1-2 in the Millionaire Maker had extreme leverage on Le'Veon Bell, who our model was overexposed on.
Yeah,
and Bell didn't even finish in their lineups.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh wait, no, he did have Bell, right?
Yeah, because Le'Veon Bell was the #1 running back in the Occupy model, which was crazy.
Damn. The guy who won, Hishbu, how many players did he use, and what was his max?
Let's look.
Sorry to make you go back.
That's fine. Hishbu had 71 players and a 59% max.
That seems more in line. This week I was at 52.
57
players, 57, and my max was 35 or something, maybe
34. Yep. And the people that we do like to look at, we'll look at, like Chipotle. He had 87 players with a 60% max.
Yeah, I need to get my max up a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But the key is, our back testing showed that for 150 lineups, less players is better as far as hitting the top prize. Not for week-to-week profitability, but for that big ROI spike. So less is better, and that 50 range is kind of the sweet spot. So that's what I've been trying to aim at here these last couple of weeks.
Makes sense. What was it? Yeah. Here's one thing I wanted to show you guys that I saw someone put it on Twitter. I figured I want to show it to you. We always talk about leaving salary on the table if you wanted to be unique. If you look here, 45% of people in the Millionaire Maker used all of the salary, and then 23% used $49.9. So if you leave just more than $100 off the table, you're looking pretty good at getting somewhat of a unique lineup. 69% nice of lineups.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people have asked the question, how much salary is too much to leave? And this paints a pretty clear picture. If you have $49,800 or less, you're basically differentiating yourself from 90% of the competition. And as long as you use proper lineup construction, you're stacking, you have a couple low-end guys in there, you're not playing extreme chalk at receiver, you're going to be unique. So there's really, honestly, if you're using the DFS Magic lineup builder, there's really no reason to go above 1,000 left over.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is single game. You may need to get a little bit more cute there.
Definitely, single game is a completely different monster. Yeah, definitely agree there. $1,000 or more is expected, if not optimal. So.
Yeah. And once you get a good hit, we'll have to talk about the 150 line of construction for that on Switch one day.
Yeah, I'm getting closer. So had some sweat the last couple of weeks. So.
Yep. #sweat. Let's see, we got Bismo in the chat. Is that what
Bismo,
it do? What it do?
Hey, we need to give Bismo the VIP badge. I don't know how he doesn't have that yet.
All right, let me go ahead and do this here for you, Bismo.
And most Jake says Chipotle Addict had 60% Chris Carson. Makes me feel less bad about my 46%. Yeah. That's always a good feeling. Like you look at these guys, these pros who have literally won millions of dollars playing DFS and what they're doing on a weekly basis. Um, if you're in line with their exposure, a lot of times you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And other thing I like here is they show the flex position distribution, and we go back and forth on this a lot. Um, I've always felt like you should use more wide receivers. You should use more running backs, make it more even. It was surprising to me to see 14% of the flex positions be tight end this week.
That was probably me by accident.
All 23% of your exposed Mark Andrews was in him in the flex.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is the one nice thing about DFS Magic. I say that jokingly, but you can set on DFS Magic in the settings, use tight end and flex. That's a specific setting. You could choose no, that way you can never have a tight end and flex. However, in the game stack section or the team stack section, you can click yes to include tight ends and stacks, and that'll override. So like Kansas City, Baltimore, right? I was stacking that game. I liked Andrews and I liked Kelsey. I used the setting, use tight end and flex as no, because I don't want any other lineup to have a tight end and flex. It's not optimal. However, in those game stacks, I do like both those guys. By clicking the include tight end and stack check mark next to Kansas City and Baltimore, or the allow two tight ends or whatever the setting's called. Yeah. Only those game stacks had two tight end flex spots, but none of the other ones did. So I think that customization is pretty key.
Yeah, it really is. And it looks like we got some members about the blink too. Al Mitchellman says, "Sup guys, was a crazy good week. I'm coming so close to blinking. That's awesome." And then Bismo says, "We rock. I was so close to taking down a $27 gridiron." Which
damn.
Shout out to both of y'all. That's awesome.
Incredible work, guys. Yeah, Al Mitchellman is Junior JR on Twitter. We tweeted out. He had an impressive single game run Sunday night. I think turned $16 into over what was it? $16 into over 700, over 1,700, and you got a WFFC ticket as well. So I really love seeing that.
And you're chasing the WFFC as well, correct?
Yeah, I have quite a few. They still have no idea what the max is, which is like mind blowing that they don't know this at this point in the season. But I'm just gonna keep stacking them until they say I can't use them. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Worst case scenario, I feel like they just give it to you as cash or something like that.
Yeah, they'll definitely do that. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna try to get as many as I can.
Yep. As Chris pops in and says, "So don't flex tight ends. Got it. Sup guys."
Whatever.
Yep. JW Win says, "Wow, yeah, man, yeah, definitely awesome on here." Bisno says, "Oh, yep, Chris already answered. Yep, that's right."
Yeah, the word bank. If you see people use the word bank, it was a poker term. Bank that term. It means that you just got first place. You took it down. So
really,
yeah.
Is that where it came from? I did not know that.
Yeah. Unless there was some sort of tournament style gambling before then, where people were banking things. But from what I know, it was poker.
Okay. See, I'm too young to be in that poker scene. Oh, come on. Junior JR says, "I missed taking down a FanDuel Showdown tourney last Thursday on the last play. Went from 3,800 to 30.
I think we had the same lineup then. That was was that the Baker Mayfield one? I think. Where he ended up with one more. I lost by a yard. I went from $3,000 to $30 too. So maybe there's a different slate. But super fun times over there in FanDuel.
Which is crazy. Again, and we talk about 150 maxing. I've been 150 maxing the Pooch Punt on FanDuel, which is their 5 cents contest, 150 max entries. Really, really good. I do well on the main slate, or at least my process wise, and then I just completely suck so hard on the showdown slates, the single games. And at this point, I mean, I don't want to say it's too complicated or too difficult to do for single game. At FanDuel, man, I think I might have to just take a step back and just say, you know what, you guys got it. And that's something we talk about. Setting your goals with Occupy. Maybe it's just, hey, this FanDuel's single game 150 maxing isn't for me.
Maybe so, but it's also small samples, Moose, and also like JR says in the chat, You gotta leave a lot of money on the table on FanDuel if you want to have a unique lineup or a chance at first. It's just too hard with no salary differentiation for captains and
Yeah.
only 5 spots. Like it's so many people end up with the same lineup, so it makes it really tough to be profitable there.
I would absolutely love to do something. I don't know how we could do this. Maybe we would do it, once the game locks, or maybe something like that where we go back and do like a hypothetical 150 max, what it would have been, and we get Jack on, we do or something like that, and we go through the process of actually creating 150 max. We do it after the slate is locked, just so for full transparency, people don't copy the 150 lineups.
That's true. That would suck.
Yeah.
That would definitely suck. Bismo says so. We got Thursday coming up. We're talking about single game and whatnot. Sorry, I'm off the screen here.
You're over there chilling.
I know. Bismo said, Miles Sanders breakout game. Miles Sanders been getting a lot of work. Talking about Thursday. These single game slates. I know this is a 150 max and week 2 or week 3 review, but talking about single game too. A lot of it's figuring out these guys who are going to be like 20 to 30% owned when they really should be like 40 to 50% owned. A lot of time it's a receiver or running back that's been kind of underperforming. So that's really the key. That's the guy I try to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Taylor Gabriel, guys like Brandon Cooks in the Super Bowl. Like these guys that probably should be a little higher, but because quarterback and running backs get so exposed, these guys get left out a little bit, and that's where you can be overexposed.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree with you on that. Yeah, so all right, guys. So we're gonna be here for about 10 minutes or so. You can keep the questions coming. Definitely like that. Is there anything you want to look up?
What was the most duplicated lineup in the Millionaire?
I guess I can do the duplicate lineups on that. Is that how that would work?
I think pretty sure that's how it.
All right, so this count of 179. It was
really. I wonder if the same person have it a bunch of times. They had to.
Well, no, because it says 171 users.
The fuck? 171 people use Kyle Allen and Le'Veon Bell in the same lineup. I'm not even worried about the rest of the lineup. That's crazy. Let me see. What the fuck? 179 people flex George Kittle. Like what? Are you sure this is right?
That's what it says. I mean, I'm moving it on the screen here. What I think probably happened, and this does happen a lot, where again, I'm not calling out anybody doing whatsoever, but they'll go to an optimizer and they won't change any settings. They'll just optimize and just go with that lineup.
It had to be 171 people use that guy. That's insane to me.
Yeah,
it's the most unbelievable thing I've seen all week.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, if you look, you have 2 spots down the guy who who did 150 of the same lineup.
An idiot. What was his lineup that he used 150 of?
So it was Dak, Le'Veon, Hines,
Nice.
Hopkins,
Jesus,
Cooper, Cobb, Witten, Allen. Cincinnati defense. Yeesh.
That is maybe the worst lineup I've ever seen.
And then right 2 spots down, you have one user who did 100 count. Mahomes, Zeke, Burke, Watkins, DeMarcus, James Washington, Gesicki, Saquon, and New Orleans.
Imagine putting Mike Gesicki in all 150 of your lineups.
That's wild.
I'm talking a lot of shit here. I've lost money 3 weeks in a row, but like this is giving me some positivity. I've never seen these shitty lineups.
At least you're playing rake free with some of these entries.
That's true, but I guess like people in the chat are saying that there has to be optimizer builds.
Yeah.
Like only such a mix. Yeah.
And looking here, let me see, just do a count. I know I kind of mentioned earlier before, but 160 lineups, probably not that many in the grand scheme of things of the 250,000, whatever. Didn't submit a lineup, so that's that's what 3,200 taken off the rake.
Yeah. Yep, that's nice. That definitely helps. And JR has a question. We hit on it earlier, JR, if you rewind back when the replay comes, but we went in depth about it, talking about do you think guys it's going to be hard to win Millie using a game stack running it back, but we talked about that before, that we still think that's the optimal play for a lot of reasons. So if you missed it earlier, watch the replay on YouTube or Twitch, and we explain our thoughts.
Cool. Yeah. So, all right. So look ahead to 150. Are there any stacks that you've kind of looked at before for this upcoming week?
Yeah, so definitely, obviously, the top total on the board, the Mahomes and Detroit game. And like I said, we talked about the salary distribution. Sure, the game is going to be popular. So it has the highest total, it has Patrick Mahomes. However, as long as we leave $200 on the table, we're only competing with 12% of lineups for unique lineups.
Mm-hmm.
Add in the fact that we'll fade some high receivers, add in the fact that we'll super stack, add in the fact that we'll do some other things. Not really worried about having a unique lineup, even if I'm stacking the most popular game.
I agree. Just looking ahead here, one of the things that kind of you know stood out to me is this Washington Giants game where the total opened at 46 and is already up to 49.
Shit.
Especially at some of the sharp books like Westgate and Pinnacle Offshore, where that's something you want to see, 3-point line move like that on the total. Um, so that'll be a pretty popular game too, I think.
I think so too. Just because a lot of the guys are cheap. So Wayne Gallman's filling in for Saquon. He's 4K on DraftKings. Terry McLaurin didn't get a price bump. He's 4,500. And then after all these guys went off last week, I think they'll be popular too. But again, that 3-point bump is pretty huge and something I'll take into consideration for sure.
Yeah, that's actually all. That's the largest positive total bump. There's like a game, the New England Buffalo game, for example, has gone down 2 points, 2.5 in some spots. That may be one game you want to avoid.
Yeah, that was a game I was initially looking at too. And then of course, just be a glutton for punishment. Seattle, Arizona. Swear to God, if Kyler Murray ever has a ceiling game, I'm gonna win. Not even $1 million. I'm gonna win $2 million. So maybe one day. I was talking. It's funny. I was talking with Jack today because we were kind of discussing. Jack, if you don't know, is the creator of DFS Magic. We were just talking about different game stacks for the upcoming week. We're talking about we're just commiserating about Kyler Murray and whatnot. He was like, dude, just keep stacking them. Eventually, he's gonna have a big game. You're gonna win the $1 million off of it. I was like, dude, I'm gonna get air raid tatted across my chest if Kyler Murray wins me $1 million. So.
Well, what did people say on Twitter? They just need to start calling it the horizontal raid.
Man, we can talk about that for a long time, and maybe Waleed and I will talk about that on our podcast this week. But Kyler Murray had 43 attempts, somewhere in that range in week 3. Just 4 of those attempts were 15 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, or maybe even 10 yards. Just like it makes it so easy to defend that offense when 1, you can't pass protect, but 2, all the routes are within like 5 yards of each other.
Yeah, I mean, let me see if I can pull it up here. I want to see if I can pull up Kyler Murray's pass charts on Next Gen Stats.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. So
see if I can pull that up. Pass.
Also, Junior JR was saying it's hard to win $1 million if you do this, and then Chris in the chat responds, it's hard to win $1 million no matter what you do. So also true.
I definitely agree with that. So let's see. All right, so let me pull it up here. So if you look, this is Next Gen Stats where they chart a majority of the position players, what they did. Let me see if I can get this.
Look at that, 5 throws beyond 10. I guess you count the one as like at 10 yards or 11 yards, whatever it is. But like 5 throws. No, sorry, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 throws beyond 10 yards out of 40, whatever. Look at this.
Yeah, out of 43. That's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, man. Not good. Hopefully they go back to the drawing board on this one because they need some more vertical elements in this passing game.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, well, we got a couple questions in the chat before we head out of here. So Jake says, this week is lighter on running back. No Zeke, no Barkley, no Kamara, no Connor on the main slate. Will you play more 4 wide receiver lineups? More than likely, I imagine the field will too, so it's something you have to kind of counterbalance.
Yep. And Junior JR says, obviously, really just for any optimal GPP build can be single entry or smaller pools. I'm always looking for sensible running back, defense, or double dip correlations for tourneys. And I've asked you about it before. We kind of disagree on this in some sense, where the running back defense stack is kind of overrated, is what you call it?
I do. Yeah, I certainly do.
You kind of want to
Uh,
explain why?
yeah, we put me on the spot. I'm not sure I can articulate it right now, but there are just much more. There are much bigger correlations, whether it's receivers, opposing tight ends.
Hmm.
Um, Especially now, a lot of running backs get their value in the passing game.
Hmm.
Like for these 40, 50-point running back games, you need volume in the passing game. A lot of times that happens when it's a close game where they're down. So I understand that a couple of winners already have had the correlation, and I get it. I just think it's probably a little overvalued given where the NFL is right now.
Makes sense.
So Chris also asked if I'm still running out Devontae Parker every week. Yeah, it's another reason I'm bankrupt.
Let's see. Yep. So guys, 4 more minutes, and we'll get up out of here.
Yeah, so just a quick reminder for content scheduled this week, and as it has been the last couple of weeks for NFL regular season. So today is Tuesday. This is being released and posted on YouTube after it's done. Wednesday night, Waleed and I record our season-long fantasy football podcast where we talk about waivers, trades, start-sit decisions. We'll post a tweet tomorrow, Wednesday, for any start-sit questions or trade questions that you have, and we'll answer them live on the podcast. Thursday morning, the single game plug for the Packers and the Eagles game will be out. The model will be up and running for both single game and the main slate. Chris will have the main slate daily plug up Friday at some point. It's been crushing so far this season, so look forward to that. Friday night, we record the DFS podcast where we talk about some high-level stuff, some different stacks, injuries, whatnot.
Some different snacks.
Talk about some snacks, too, that we're going to eat on Sunday. And then Saturday night, our Twitch moves where we preview the week slate.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely will be a lot of fun. As Chris says, looking at Parker's air yards again, I'm pretty sure I'm joining you on that train this week. We can lose money together. Whoop, whoop.
Nothing better than losing money together.
And as JR points out, McCaffrey, Carolina was in the winning lineup this week. We're not saying to not do it.
Right, it's still a positive correlation for sure. I just say I wouldn't go out of the way to try to do it.
Yeah, it's like if it fits, it fits, but don't try and force it.
Yeah. Also, Moose, it's we're about a week away from hockey, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I got the notification on my phone. It was like, update NHL model, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're making a couple changes. Hockey, I know most of our members and most of the people out there don't really play hockey. However, Moose, I think we could say the NHL model is maybe one of our best. I'm partial to a couple of them, but I think the NHL one's one of the best. We're making some updates to it. And DraftKings is running out tickets, FanDuel's running out tickets, and FanDuel always has that great end of the season tournament. So I'm really excited for that. Starting soon.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And DraftKings is going to start doing showdown slates more. So expect the single game model. That's going to be, again, just more work for me to do. But no, it should be a lot of fun. We're going to be introducing some new stuff. One thing you talked about is high danger opportunity stats, which for those who don't know, basically people who shoot it really close to the goal. That's as easy as I can get it to you. And as Bismarck says, is hockey that good? Yeah, it is really that good. And as JL says, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I was still plus EV last season. Yeah, using our model, I still can't pronounce half the names. I still have no idea who people play. It's kind of like it's like a look, plug and play, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna do some Twitch streams. We're gonna try to add us to the rotation, and maybe I'll host them to give you a break, Moose, with Waleed, who is our co-founder and an NHL resident expert throughout the season, maybe a couple times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll leave all the names to him because he is Russian. He knows how to pronounce all of them. Whereas I and you, we don't watch the games. We just follow on our phones. So I have zero idea how to say some of these names that have no vowels.
Yeah, it's like, dog, did you just copy the alphabet? Definitely. Yeah, so, all right, so 9 p.m. Let's get up out of here. Brian, do you have any last words before I take us out?
No, just please follow and subscribe on here. Follow and subscribe in your podcast apps too. Any subscriptions and followings just help us. So we appreciate that.
Definitely. So yeah, so this was the $1 million mission for week 3. If you like what we did on Twitch, hit the follow button. If you're watching this replay on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. All those things will really help us out. Give us a follow on Twitter at OccupyFantasy. Follow me on Twitter at CFB_Moose. Follow Brian at Brian Jester FF on Twitter. From OccupyFantasy.com. Have a good night, guys. Let's get out of here.
Peace.
Peace.